Hello, and you've found Why We Are Christians. Again, my name is Kent Philpott, and this is part two of our conversation with Susan Perlman. She's in her offices in San Francisco on Haight Street, location of Jews for Jesus, because she's a big part of Jews for Jesus. And hello again, Susan. We're back again.
Hi, Kent.
And we ended the first program with your description of your coming in contact with Christians, and who knows, we've been Arthur Bressett and Larry Norman, part of the Jesus People movement. And you had become a Christian at this point. What happened next, Susan? What happened next?
I was about 20 at the time.
Okay, 20 years old.
And I told my family about it. I told my roommates about it. I lived on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. My family lived in Brooklyn. I remember my mother was very upset, felt like she didn't want my grandmother to know that, in Judaism, you're named after deceased relatives, and I was named after my grandmother's sister. And my grandmother eventually said to me, I hope that God doesn't hold it against my sister that you've done what you've done.
Oh my God. Okay.
So it was not a very positive response from my family. I had roommates who were not Christians as well, and they felt like I had gone in a weird direction, that maybe I needed to see a psychiatrist or something, that I would come to believe like this. I was not progressive enough for them. And so I really didn't get a whole lot of encouragement from the people that meant the most to me in my life at that time. But, the thing about it, Kent, was that God knew that, and he knew what I needed, and he was there for me when the people that I counted on were not. Okay. And I think sometimes we let our disappointments in people kind of flavor how we look at things. But if we really can turn to the Lord and know that he is the one we need to look for approval from, he's the one that we need to have a smile come upon us from, not from other people, if we can get through some of those tough times.
Sure.
Of course, God also put other people in my life to encourage me. Even though they weren't my family, they became family to me as well.
Sure. Now, the church that these guys were operating out of, Arthur and Larry Norman, did you start attending that church?
I did. It was a church that was actually pastored by a guy named Paul Moore, who was a Nazarene pastor from New Jersey.
The Nazarene church?
That's right, the Nazarene church. And there were people in that church that, were very friendly to me. I would come and because it was in New Jersey and I lived in New York City, I would come on Saturdays, stay over on Saturday night in the missionary housing that the church provided.
Wow.
And then help with kind of some of the maintenance work in the church to kind of pay for my free housing and attended the services on Sunday. And then I met people in the church as well who, just reached out to me and were very friendly and warm. And I stayed there for a while. I eventually needed to find a church in Manhattan because that was really not very convenient.
Sure.
And so I was looking for a church where there was a real sense of activism, because remember, I was an activist. I was an anti-war activist. Now I was an activist for Jesus. And I needed to find people who had that same kind of idea. I remember as a new believer, I went to the New York Bible Society and the American Tract Society to get literature so that I could hand it out on the street. Nobody told me I had to do that. It just how could I not, if I believe this, not share it with others? And so I was out one day and I saw these other people handing stuff out, and actually they were African American, and I went up to them and told them that I was a believer in Jesus too. And they invited me to their church in Queens, New York. And I went that following Sunday, and was very well received and accepted in the church. And I figured I should do everything I can, to support this place, because they love Jesus and they're showing Jesus to others. I joined the choir, even though I really couldn't sing very well. I went to the Wednesday evening prayer meeting, and and I was like this very, active member of this church, and it was a place where I initially grew in the Lord.
Now, I forgot to ask you, were you baptized?
I was in a swimming pool.
In a swimming pool, okay.
Yes. Up in Rochester, New York.
Okay, do you remember who baptized you?
It was an itinerant preacher, but he baptized me and gave me a Bible.
Don't you wish you had a photograph of that, Susan?
Oh, I do.
Oh, I know. Me too.
But it was a genuine baptism. And
Sure.
I remember my great uncle had said to me when I became a believer, one of the first questions he asked me was I baptized? And I said no. And he says, well, please wait. Don't do that, because that's like sort of the final thing. And once you do that, there's like a point of no return. And he wanted me to go to Israel and study with a rabbi before I got baptized. And I didn't do that. I didn't go to Israel. And he was very sad about that.
I see. Wow. Your early days as a Christian spent there in New York City, Manhattan, and so on.
Right.
Bring us a little more history.
Okay.
Following that, Susan.
Right. Now, the Jews for Jesus movement was having its heyday in the Bay Area of San Francisco. And Moishe Rosen, the founder, was living up in Marin County where you are. And he had done a lot of recruiting of young missionaries to the Jewish people in New York, and asked one of those missionaries to be on the lookout for some spark plugs, because he wanted to recruit some people to come to San Francisco.
Okay.
And so this former staffer of his in New York met me, and we started talking about things. And she wrote to Moish and said, I met this girl, Susan Perlman. You got to get her out there in San Francisco.
Who was this woman? Do you remember?
Her name was Miriam Slifter. Later became Miriam Nadler. She was the first leader of our.
You're kidding me. I know Miriam, and I know Sam.
Right.
Miriam. Oh, you're right. Now she was a spark plug.
Yeah.
She was something else. Oh yeah.
Right. So Moish told her to have me write to him to share my story of faith. So, and then I never heard back from him. And she brought it up to me a few weeks later, and I said, well, he never wrote back. And she said, well, that's not like Moish. And so she actually called him, and he told her that at that time, Jews for Jesus was based in Corte Madera. And right. And for some reason, there had been somebody at the post office in Corte Madera that had been stealing some of the Jews for Jesus mail. The person had eventually got caught, but I think among the pieces that were stolen was my letter.
Yes.
To Moish. And so he said, no, I never received it. Have her call me. And so again, I thought this was kind of gutsy of this stranger to ask me to do this, but I called him, and I remember the conversation. I said, my name is Susan Perlman, and my friend Miriam asked me to call you, but this is an expensive call. Back then, actually, you paid a lot for long-distance calls like that.
Yes, you did. Yes, we did. Yeah.
New York to San Francisco. I said, so I can only talk for 3 minutes. So Moish said to me, give me your phone number, and when 3 minutes are up, I'll call you back. And which he did. And in the course of this conversation where we were, quote, getting to know each other, he asked me a very pivotal question. He says, how do you see yourself spending the rest of your life in terms of serving God? Well, I was busy writing copy for JCPenney bedspreads and things like that. And yet I also on my own time, like I said, I would go out and hand out tracts and do stuff that I thought would count for something beyond that. And I said, well, I don't know. I do the best I can. I share my faith wherever I can. And he said, no, I want you to dream a little. If you could do anything, what would you like to do? And I said, well, I write for a living. I would love to write things that would honor and glorify God. And I was directing a children's theater group in New York that used to do weekend block parties. I said, I have a little drama experience. I would love to do street drama that told people about Jesus. And Moish paused for a second. He said, well, you could do both those things with us out here in California.
That's Moish.
He says, I can't offer you a job, because he didn't have a job to offer me. He says, but I can offer you the opportunity to do these things. And if I have food on my table, you'll have food on your table. And if I have a roof over my head, you'll have a roof over your head. When can you come? So that was the benefit package. And I didn't hesitate. I couldn't believe the words out of my own mouth. I said, well, I need to give my job 2 weeks notice. And he says, okay, I'll see you in 2 weeks. And he hung up the telephone.
Yep.
And I thought, what did I just do? So that started an amazing journey that's lasted these many, many decades.
Yeah, many decades, Susan. Yeah, okay. So you got here. I remember you back then. I remember you. I don't ever had a real close conversation, but I knew about you.
Okay.
And I probably saw you at different venues and et cetera, and so on. So you got out here about what year?
I got out in 1972.
72, yes. The Jesus movement is still underway. We're just starting Church of the Open Door in San Rafael. What were you first doing at Jews for Jesus when you got here?
Well, because I had written for a living and because I had told Moish the things I wanted to do, he allowed me to do that. First, he actually had a job that opened up once I got here. It was as his secretary. And so he offered me this paid job. And I said, no, I didn't move clear across country to be stuck behind this electric typewriter. I remember that's what we had back in those days.
Yes.
I said, you said I could write and I could do drama, and that's what I'll do. And I got a part-time job in a local restaurant to pay my bills, and I was a full-time volunteer.
Okay.
So I wrote press releases, I wrote tracts, I did all kinds of things like that, and I became part of the startings of what was called the New Jerusalem Players. It was a drama team.
Yes.
That went around and did street drama at Sproul Plaza in Berkeley, and at San Francisco State, and at the College of Marin.
Yes. And I remember Liberated Wailing Wall from that day.
That was our music group, and I was not good enough for the music group, so I was in the drama group.
Susan, did you know my oldest daughter, Dory, who worked for Moish?
Of course I did.
Yes, okay.
Of course I did. She was just a real bright light in the office.
Yes, she was. She is.
Wow.
And she's still following Jesus too.
14.
But she knew Moish because Moish was always coming over to our house.
Yeah.
Just at that period of time.
It was great.
So now, move us from where you were there to what's going on now, Susan.
Okay. When we started out, Ken, the name Jews for Jesus wasn't even well known. And so we did a lot of high profile things to get Jewish people to recognize that there are Jews who believe in Jesus, that we could still remain Jewish in terms of our heritage and our expression of our faith, but be fully followers of Jesus at the same time. And after a number of years, that became known. We didn't have to prove that anymore. I don't think there's a Jew in the United States today that doesn't know that there are Jews who believe in Jesus. Yeah. And what we did back then, a lot of the high profile things involved being on the streets, handing out gospel literature, which we call broadsides.
Broadsides.
Doing our music teams and our drama teams on the street. Now, the street corners were our place of engagement with the Jewish community, because like I said, they weren't interested in walking into a church building or a Christian bookstore, but we could get Jewish people to interact with us on the street. Well, things have changed a lot, and the street corner of today is the internet.
Yes.
That's the marketplace of ideas for people. And so we do quite a bit of online evangelism in Jews for Jesus. We have a 24/7 live chat that's available. And because chat online can be anonymous, a lot of Jewish people gravitate toward that because they don't have to identify themselves initially. But we move from being anonymous with people in a chat room to getting their phone number, to getting to talk to them, to getting to meet them face to face. And that has been really exciting.
Yeah.
Another area for us has been doing a whole lot more with regard to making environments open and friendly to Jewish people. So we have 3 different phases of our ministry. The first is Go and Tell, and that's kind of our proclamation ministry.
We call that Go and Tell.
Go and Tell.
Go and tell.
So like on a college campus, we might have a table with a big cold brew coffee vat thing, and we'll have trays of brews for Jesus that we hand out to the students and engage in conversations. Or we have message boards that we put up so people can use those stickies to pray for things or to make a statement about something, and then we have the engagement with them that way. That's more Go and Tell. Then we have what we call Come and See, and Come and See involves opportunities for people to come and experience Jesus in a very friendly and cool setting. So for instance, in Los Angeles, we have right across from UCLA something called the Upside Down Cafe.
Oh.
And it is a cafe with like really, really good coffee and internet and an art gallery, and people come in and they can have a great cup of coffee. It's donation based, so we don't charge for it, but believe it or not, donation based facility like that actually pays for itself.
Oh.
People love the coffee so much that they're still not paying what they'd pay in Starbucks, but
Sure.
they're giving something for what they're getting for free.
And you call that, the name of the cafe again is?
Upside Down Cafe. And we took that from, it's kind of a play on words. Not only does the upside down in terms of dealing with the gospel, turning the world upside down, but in Israel, there's a coffee called Cafe Afuk, which is like a upside down coffee. And so people know that.
Okay. Wow. Well, okay. Maybe somebody's going to see this program and go to the Upside Down Cafe by UCLA.
Yeah, so I mean, our baristas are all believers that can engage with people in conversation who want to engage, and just it's very low key but very obvious. And they go and they see the Upside Down Cafe. They also see a little plaque on our building that says Jews for Jesus, so they know.
So they know. Yeah.
They know. There's nothing. Yeah, there's no subterfuge there at all.
Okay.
And then we have different opportunities in terms of come and see by way of art shows. In Tel Aviv, we have what we call the Rosen Center, named after Moshe Rosen, and it is a very cool setting where we have art shows, and there's also a little coffee bar in there, but people can come and view the artwork, the photography. We'll have a food truck when we have one of those shows showing the with food from India and that kind of thing. We have this in Europe as well, and one in New York next to NYU.
Really?
So, yeah.
What a location.
Yeah. And then the third aspect of the ministry we call love and serve.
Say that again.
Love and serve. So go and tell, come and see, and then love and serve. And love and serve is our ministry out to the community in helps ways where the gospel is also presented. So we will go out on the streets, we'll talk with, Israelis, just like every other people group, have the ills of society upon them, and particularly in the big cities like Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. We have homeless, we have drug addicts, we have street traffic people, and so on. And so we go out, we engage with them, we share the love of Jesus, we offer them help, get them into rehab programs, feed them, just love on them, and do so with a message of Jesus. Because we'll always be asked, well, why are you doing this? And we'll say, well, this is what our rabbi has taught us to do. Oh, really? Who's your rabbi? And I will say, our rabbi is Jesus. And then share from the scriptures about what Jesus has taught about caring for one another.
Wow, wonderful.
One of the things we just started, by the way, Kent, is a food truck in Tel Aviv. It's the first Christian food truck in the country of Israel.
Wow.
We bought it, outfitted it, and it became operational just in these past few weeks.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Now, you've been to Israel a few times, I imagine, Susan?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we do in Israel, we're not doing right now because of COVID, is we bring teams short-term to Israel from churches all over the world so that they can take part in a lot of these different ministries. It's a great opportunity because I think lots of Christians, when they think of Israel, they think of it as kind of a Christian Disneyland. It's a place to go and see the sites that places Jesus walked and the places they can find in the Bible. But it is a living country with people who are really needing the message of life that only Jesus can bring. Less than 0.5% of Israelis know Jesus.
0.5%.
Yes.
In my mind, that's the reason to be there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And our largest work in Israel. We have over 40 full-time missionaries there. Yes.
Wow, that's wonderful. Jews for Jesus has just kept going. Even after Moshe's death. How long ago did he die, Susan? I'll never forget Moshe. I remember he telling me that I needed to go and be a seminary professor. That's what he thought I should be, a seminary professor. And we'd argue about that. So, Susan, we're almost at the end of our program. And I'm going to ask a fellow Jewish believer, my wife, Katie. And we're a little bit different in our broadcast stuff here. I hope she didn't go out in the back. Here she is. Here's Katie. Come on, Katie. We just got a few minutes here.
Oh, are we still on? Okay.
We're still on. Yeah, here she is.
Yeah.
You wonder if you got your hair combed right.
Oh, Zoom is a mirror is annoying.
So we've had a great time with Susan, and again, she's Jews for Jesus. And when I think of Jews for Jesus, I think of Susan Perlman.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, that's what I think of. Always do. Okay, your favorite book in the Hebrew Bible, Susan, what would that be?
It would be the book of Psalms.
Okay, Psalms.
I can find something in Psalms to be encouraged by, to be convicted by, to move forward in all those areas, and to be consoled in as well. And I think right now it's a period of time where people need comfort in this isolation that they're feeling. And I think the book of Psalms is a great place for that.
I'm preaching on Isaiah 12 this next Sunday, and it is a psalm. It's a psalm, Isaiah 12. It's
It is, and that's actually my favorite verses of the Bible are in Isaiah 12.
really.
Yes. Behold, God is my salvation. I will trust and
Yes.
will not be afraid, for the Lord my God is my strength and my song, and he's also become my salvation.
And there's a wonderful song we sang in the Jews for Jesus Singers. I'm sure the Liberated Wailing Wall way for a long time.
Hine El Yeshua T. Yes.
Yes.
Behold.
Yeah. So, well, okay, that's wonderful. Isaiah ends that chapter with the phrase, his favorite phrase for God, the Holy One of Israel. The Holy One of Israel.
Yes. Yes, he does. Well, I'd love to hear that sermon, Kent. Is it streamed online?
Well, yeah, we stream it. It's on Vimeo in a couple days. Will be made podcasts of, and
At our website, milleravenuechurch.org, we have links. By no later than Wednesdays, we will have the recorded service, the whole service, and you can find the sermon in that service.
okay. Now, Susan, moving to the Greek Bible, do you have a favorite book there?
The book of Romans.
The book
Oh,
of
yes.
Romans, the hardest book,
Yes.
the hardest of all
Theological
books.
deepest.
That's,
And I particularly like chapters 9, 10, and 11.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
The ones that are often skipped in the commentaries of the book of Romans, because they so pointedly speak to the Jewish people.
yes, okay.
Yes. And I did a paper for one of my Greek exegesis classes on and then all Israel will be saved. And what does that really mean? Oh, big deal.
Well, you know, one thing that I found out about being a Christian is there's no two of us that are exactly alike. There are differences. Okay, now, Susan, we just got time for your favorite Bible verse.
Okay. I'm gonna
Did you
get
have,
that.
you may not, a lot of people don't have one favorite one.
No, but one that really does speak to me a lot is from Romans chapter 10, verse 1. Brothers, my heart's desire and prayer to God for Israel is that they may be saved.
There you go. That's okay. That's a beauty.
With the Apostle Paul, I share that prayer.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Wow. Well, Susan, thank you so much. This has been, I just loved it. I like to go more, but here we are. We've done two good programs, and I appreciate you. We love Jews for Jesus, and may the Lord bless your ministry.
Well, thank you, and come visit us at jewsforjesus.org online.
Yes.
Okay, we will.
Of course.
All right. We've reached the end of Why We Are Christians. Be looking for the more programming coming up. So long.